You're listening to the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, your host, Ben Eagle. Please remember to subscribe to the show wherever you are listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 248 of the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, Ben Eagle. Today, we're heading to Leicestershire to meet fourth-generation arable and poultry farmer Will Oliver. Will's family grows wheat, maize, and winter beans on around 2,000 acres on the Leicestershire-Warwickshire border. The farm has an historical claim to fame as well, as it stands on the site where the Battle of Bosworth. There's any history buffs amongst you, you'll know that is the last significant battle of the Wars of the Roses, which took place in 1485. So it's a pretty cool stat. The farm has a mix of enterprises, including 175,000 chickens. Yes, you did hear that right. They're brought in as one-day-old chicks. They're reared until 39 days when they head off for slaughter, and then the supermarkets. So we're going to talk about poultry today. And the farm is also quite heavily diversified. There's a glamping field. There's a small herd of Angus cattle bred for beef. They have a dog walking field, a livery yard, 2 fishing lakes, a quarry, and several residential and commercial lets. So there's a lot going on in this place. Will is pretty scrupulous when it comes to measuring pretty much everything, from chicken manure to soils, yields, and wheat protein levels. In 2022, he was named Arable Farmer of the Year in the Farmers Weekly Awards. He was also 2021 Cereal Grower of the Year in the National Arable and Grassland Awards. And in 2023, he was awarded a chartership by the Society of the Environment. Well, that is quite a CV. Welcome to Meet the Farmers. How are you?
Yes, very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here. I've given listeners quite an insight into what's happening on the farm, but I'm sure there's more. Can you give us your sort of introduction to the business and tell us a bit about yourself as well?
Well, you covered pretty much most of it, but I'll try and fill in some gaps. But yeah, so Will Oliver, 4th generation on a very much a family farm. So working with my father. I've also got a younger brother who's in Japan currently, but he will be coming back to the business. And yeah, we just try and be as efficient as possible. We're always prepared to take risks, I think, and think of the new next idea to help diversify our business and just keep us on the path to being successful. So, like you said, yeah, we're heavily diversified. But my heart is with arable farming. That's what I enjoy, and that's my first. If people say, "What sort of farmer are you?" I would say I'm an arable farmer.
Okay. What do you like? Is it the machinery? What is it? What do you like the most about it?
Just the different growing seasons. There's a lot of variability. Every year's different. We're going to talk about chickens, but that's much more regimented, a lot more repetition. Whereas lots of different challenges, whether it's blackgrass or a wet autumn and we can't get plants in. Yeah, it's frustrating, but it's challenges that make our job different. So, yeah.
Yeah, how has this season been for you? Because, it's been a nightmare, is putting it lightly, for so many people.
Yeah, so we do grow grain maize, which is a late harvest. So the back end of 2023 was challenging, which made establishing winter wheat crops difficult. We were harvesting. Our harvest went on till December, early December. We were still drilling, but actually, come May, sun comes out, doesn't it? Things look a little bit better. We did write off some crops, but that was just a decision that we made. And with how things look today, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, and I think we're going to have an okay harvest, I hope.
Good. I was going to say, it was worth all the pain, was it?
Yeah, it has. Everyone says it's the worst in living memory what it probably is. But we seem to be breaking a lot of records every year. We have the hottest summer, we have the wettest April, and it's just it's just the sign of the times, I think. So
Yeah, it definitely seems to be normal now for things to not be normal. Just focusing on your family history, I suppose, because you've been there a few generations. Give us some history of the farm and how long your family has been there.
So yeah, where I'm sat now was the original farm that was bought by my grandfather. His father before that was a tenant farmer just down the road near Market Osworth, and my granddad made the decision to buy this farm, and we were very fortunate that then my grandfather and my father went on and bought land quite ruthlessly. And then they would buy a 150-acre block, sell the house and buildings, use that money that they've got from the house and buildings to buy another 150-acre block, and so forth. So we're quite spread out. We've got lots of 150-acre blocks, and
Okay.
without any farms, without any buildings. So yeah, logistics is a big part of my daily challenge. But yeah, I love it, and very fortunate to be able to farm the land that my father's farmed and my grandfather's farmed, and I hope I can pass that on to the future generations in a better state than it, or if not the same state or better. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, going way back to the 1485, the Battle of Bosworth, because I'm just interested in this. What did the landscape look like then? Do you know sort of how it's changed at all? Do we know anything about that?
So where they actually, our farm is called Fen Lane Farm, and Fen is flat. It's flat, so it's actually very flat. Where it's not like the Fens or anything like that, but it is.
Yeah.
And then the museum, which you can see from our field, is actually on the top of the hill, about 4 or 5 miles away. But where the actual battle, where they found all the cannonballs and the little boar that King Richard or someone very close to him was wearing, that was all on very flat surface. And we actually had Time Team come out and they made replica cannonballs, and they said, right, we're going to fire
Wow.
these, and we're going to do a big safety operation because they can go up to 1/4 of a mile. So they ring fenced it all, and then they fired them, and they went 1/4 of a mile, bounced, and went another 1/4 of a mile. So yeah, it's but yeah, you wouldn't want to be hit by one of them.
No. So let's talk about the business itself. And I want to start. I know that arable is clearly your main interest, but let's start by talking about the chickens. When and why did you start this?
Before I was born and when I was growing up, my dad had dairy cattle, he had sheep, and then he came out of dairy and went into beef in a big way. We had about 1,000 head of beef cattle going to an abattoir down the road, which was actually my mother's side of the family, and they were supplying Marks and Spencers at the time. Then foot and mouth came in, subsidies changed, so my dad and my granddad made the decision to come out of cattle, and then we converted all the sheds to commercial units. So this is in early 2000s. Then I went to Harper, got a social degree in ag with crop management, had a bit of a good time, made a lot of friends. And then came back, did my basis and fats, took on the farm agronomy. So we're now in like 2011, and I just felt like we were all take from the soils. We were putting all bags fertilizers. We hadn't got any muck anymore. We were first wheat, second wheat, oilseed rape. That was our rotation. So it was wheat rape, very intensive, either ploughing or heavily cultivating, and it just felt like things were deteriorating. Yields had plateaued. They weren't improving, but costs going up and things like that. And it just felt like things needed to change. So we literally sat around the kitchen table on a bit of rough paper, and we did some figures, and we said, where are we going to get muck from? And we went through every option, and broiler farming seemed, I hate the term broiler farming, but yeah, indoor chicken, indoor poultry seemed the most lucrative. So we got the bank manager around, said, look, this is what I want to do. Not being a poultry farmer, I didn't know anything about it, so I started going around farms. Got a lot of friends in Herefordshire that I'd met from college, go and see their farms, go and see lots of different things, and then took the plunge, and we had our first birds in December 2019. and that's completely revolutionised our arable enterprise now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because now, from what I've been reading, yeah, a lot of the arable is now almost works around that. So you're growing your feed for that enterprise.
Yeah, we're growing wheat, which goes straight directly into our poultry. We're going grain maize, which doesn't go straight into our poultry, but we're selling it as it goes into poultry feed, and then it goes into GLW feeds or back to Avara. So that's reducing imports of maize that's coming in. So it's all helping the environment, and it works really well. It works really well to utilise our manure as well. Maize is a good crop. We can bring cover crops into our rotation. We're integrating livestock. Doing no-till where sensible to do so. We're not completely no-till because we do like to incorporate our manure slightly, but we're definitely on the regenerative journey. I like to describe myself as an intensive regenerative farmer.
Okay, that's interesting in itself. Okay, so what do you mean by intensive regenerative?
So the poultry is very intensive. So it's high output. It's high input, high output. It's fast. It's grown to the highest welfare standards, and we'll touch on it. Things are changing slightly in the industry, but it's definitely there's nothing wrong with it, but it's definitely high intensive. Whereas the arable side is the opportunity to say, right, let's be a bit more regenerative, and they work hand in hand. To be fair, and it's revolutionised how we farm.
Now the poultry it's about, in essence, growing cheap meat for consumers. So I'm really interested in what that means in practice in terms of the growing process, and critically how you are keeping your costs low enough in order to grow this cheap meat, whilst also making a profit, and, like you were saying as well, having welfare standards that are as high as possible.
So yeah, first thing I'd say is it's affordable meat. So rather than cheap meat, people need food, don't they? And there is a so-called cost of living crisis going on, and people need food. That's one thing we've got to remember as farmers, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to provide food for the consumer. We'll grow whatever the consumer want us to grow within reason, and the markets dictate what we do. So yeah, we get chickens come in 1 day old. They go into, we have 4 big sheds that have got underfloor heating, and we get the underfloor heating that's powered by ground source heat pumps. So that's a renewable form of heat. We've also got solar panels on the roof of the sheds, so it's a really efficient way. And when you say about how do we grow affordable food, how can we do it to scale, it's really, the margins are really tight. So
Yeah.
if we got the electricity contract slightly wrong, then that's the profit gone, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a fine line. It's tight, but people do need food at the end of the day. And if we wanted to go into a free range system, I'm not sure whether there'd be the demand for people to want to buy a whole chicken for £25. I don't know whether that demand's there yet.
Yeah, so I mean, just pausing slightly, because I mean, certainly the egg sector, especially, I know we're talking about broilers here, but the egg sector was very vocal about this, that when the Ukraine, when Putin invaded Ukraine, and we had that initial crisis, which affected pretty much everyone in ag in different ways, whether we're talking about fertilizer costs, whether we're talking energy costs as well, that energy cost is going to hit you significantly. So what was the impact of that for you?
There's certain decisions in farming you make and you stand by them, and they used to be like little decisions, and now they're huge. Like so just for example, like when we buy our fertilizer, when we sell our grade, when we tie in our electricity contracts, all these things, if you got it wrong, you might think, oh, it's cost us 2-3% or whatever. Whereas if you get those things wrong now, it could be catastrophic to your business. So risk management is a huge part of what we're doing on a daily basis. All the time we're thinking about the risk. Sometimes the bigger the risk, the bigger the gain. So yeah, we've got quite a good electricity contract. If wheat prices drop, it's like the old horn and corn. It's nice having a mixed enterprise. It works really well together. So They do work well.
Yeah, and that time in particular, how did you navigate through that?
We were fortunate because we built the sheds in 2019 that we built them at the right time. If
Yeah.
we'd done it 2 years later, costs of building had gone up. So we'd entered the industry at the right time at that point. But like you say, all the costs had gone up. Feed was sky high. Everything was doing. But the broiler sector is relatively flatlined. There's not as much volatility. Eggs, pigs, cereals. There's a lot of this going on. A lot of up and downs. Whereas the broiler does provide a bit more stability. And yeah, people do want chicken still, and the likes of Nando. So I mean, look, that did affect us considerably because a lot of restaurants were shut. But then
Yeah.
at the same time, people were still going to the supermarket. People were doing takeouts, weren't they? The people were still eating chicken, but it was, I think, the volumes had dropped considerably, but people still wanted chicken. Whereas where our glamping is, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure, is we bought that off a goat farmer, and COVID killed goat milk like
Right.
overnight because no one buys goat milk from the supermarket really. So there are other sectors that were seriously hit as well. But even during COVID, when people were stuck in their houses, they seemed to still want to eat chicken.
So just as an aside, yeah, listeners, if there are any goat farmers out there, we've had a couple on the show over the years, but yeah, please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you and get you on the show. So just sticking with the chickens for a bit, and you're looking at large scale and you're looking at value. What about this point that some people say? And I mean, the free range market is it's a minority market certainly within the UK overall. But what would you say to somebody who says that all chickens should be free range, for example?
I think we would all like that to a degree, but at the same time, there's we've got the last 2 years we had huge bird flu pandemics when all birds have got to be indoors for the winter anyway. So our sheds are completely set up for indoor poultry, where you control their environment and everything is perfect of how it should be. We provide enrichment, we've got perches, they have windows, we walk them 3 to 4 times a day, and the welfare there is no issue with the welfare of these birds, but we would all like them to have more room, grows them a bit slower, but at the same time it costs money. But when we've got these birds, they're costing us money, and we need to make money. That's why we're doing it at the end of the day. And if you start putting slower growing birds and things like that, that's fine as long as the consumer will pay more for it because they cost more to grow.
Yeah,
and that's the issue.
Yeah. Just turning to biosecurity and I mean bird flu in particular, and I mean you hear lots of stories of sheds that are completely decimated and businesses that really struggle through this. What is your experience been of navigating through those sort of peaks during the winter?
So because our site is relatively new, biosecurity doesn't change during a bird flu pandemic. It's absolute paramount importance all the time. So we have showers. We have a gatehouse where you can shower in, shower out. You go in, you disinfect your boots. You've got shed specific clothing and overalls, and you go, and then shed specific footwear. So you go in. We're in control of that environment. There's if you have free range, you've got pigeons or wild birds coming in, splashing in puddles in the same water, and it is a huge issue. And then also with poultry as well, when it's really, really wet, we don't tend to leave our cattle outside all winter. Sometimes these livestock want to be inside. When it's wet, cold, horrible, being inside in the heated shed is a better place to be.
Meet the Farmers is brought to you by Rural Pod Media, the only podcast production agency to specialise in the rural sector. We're on a mission to make rural stories mainstream and help businesses, organisations and communities like you tell your story through podcasting. Podcasting is a fantastic way of connecting with your audience, whoever that might be, getting your message out there and networking with leaders in your niche. Rural Pod Media can help you by launching your new podcast or helping you with the technical side. We also provide podcast training and an audit service if you already have a podcast. You're not sure where to take it to next. For more information or to book a call, visit ruralpodmedia.co.uk. That's ruralpodmedia.co.uk.
Moving away from this a little bit and back to your story, really. You grew up in farming, so not everyone who grows up in farming wants to go into it as a career, but you chose that. Was there a point when you sort of knew that that's what you wanted to do? Did you ever want to do anything else?
I never wanted to do anything else. I'm not saying it wasn't an option, because it would have been an option, but I never wanted to do anything else. So the natural progression when you're a farmer's son is to you want to go onto the farm, and nothing ever changed. So I went to I was at I wasn't very academic. I did AS levels, and then I thought, actually these aren't really for me, so I dropped out and went to Half Adams and did the access course, which is a foundation degree.
Okay.
And then that was a year-long course, and you got a certain grade on that, and then you got onto a degree. So that's how I got onto a degree. And then I was a placement year and went to Colchester and did it on a potato and onion farm, and then they sent me to New Zealand for 4 months. So I managed to go and do a little bit before I came back, which is hugely valuable.
Yep.
And I feel like, yes, university is more expensive now, and it's not always necessarily the right thing to do, but to go away when you know you're going to come back to the family business, to go away to 5 years, meet lots of different people from within the industry before you come back, and it was hugely valuable.
For the farm as a whole, and you've got lots going on, and we'll turn to your diversifications a little bit later. But for the arable, let's talk about your soils first of all. What are your soils? What are your soil types?
So we've got high mag clays. We've got a big range because, like I said earlier, we're quite spread out. But yeah, high mag clays are our most challenging. And we've got some lighter sandy loams. But yeah, clay loam is what you would say most of our soils are. And I'm fortunate that my dad and granddad, they drained pretty much all the farm in the 80s, 70s and 80s.
So you've got a good starting point now.
Yeah, really good starting point. And now we're just getting back into keeping roots in that soil all year round, looking after the soil. Our yields haven't really dropped off too much. We're still at our 5-year average. We've knocked oilseed rape on the head. I've knocked second wheats on the head. Bought in grain maize, which is a bit of although maize isn't a niche crop, grain maize certainly is. And and then we grow winter beans as well, which fix in. So they're not hugely profitable, but they're a really good break crop. And I always say to people, what is profit? If it means you can get your wheat in well the next year, and it brings more to the rotation than just pound signs, really.
Okay. And to what extent are you planning your rotation pretty much solely around the poultry enterprise?
Just utilising the manure is the main aspect of that. Yes, we have to grow. We use about 600 tonne of wheat a year in the poultry, but that could be bought in a real disaster. Like this year, for example, I'm growing X days, which can get a milling premium. I'm pushing for the milling premium, and if all our wheat makes milling, it pays me to sell that as milling and then buy in feed wheat for the chickens.
Yeah.
So you've got to be flexible. I don't want to just say, "Oh, that's our wheat, let's give it our chickens," because there might be other. You've just got to be sensible. But at the same time, the poultry still need good quality wheat. There's always that thing when you're like, oh, that's all right, so you go to a chicken farm, blah, blah, blah. But actually, you get what you put in from most things in life. So the better the quality of product you put in, the better the quality of product you're going to get out.
In terms of main challenges at the moment as a business, I mean, again, you've got a good starting point, but there's lots going on at the moment. How do you see the climate at the moment?
Our main challenge is interest rates. They've brought a bit of a challenge because we've heavily invested in the last 10 years. The weather, big challenge. I know in the industry, labour is a big issue, but we're quite a small team and generally pretty happy. We've got one chap, Paul, who's been with us since I was in my mum's tummy, so 36 years.
Yeah.
And then George has been with us 5 years. That's the arable team. And then we've got John on the poultry and his girlfriend Anna, and they've been with us 5 years. So we're pretty stabilised in terms of labour. So I wouldn't say we struggle from that point of view, but it's certainly it's always in my mind that we've got to make sure we keep these people, and because when you've got a good team, you can't really take them for granted. And things like minimum wage, we're a relatively small business, but when that went up to 11.44 or whatever it was, suddenly you've got to say to your staff, well, you look at them and you think, well, they deserve better than minimum wage, so they've got to have a significant pay rise. And I do feel for the people that are employing tens or hundreds of people, because it is a big cost.
It's tough out there. Yeah, I feel like every farm has a Paul. You're saying he's been there for years and years, and
Yeah.
knows probably more than everyone else.
Yeah, and actually, and I'm very fortunate that, because obviously he was here when I was born, and now I'm essentially his boss, and that can be complex in certain situations. But no, we get on really well. So I'm lucky in that respect.
Good. You're also pretty heavily involved with the NFU. What's your involvement with them?
So I'm on the National Crops Board as an appointee for my work with organic manures, and then I'm my local branch chairman, and I'm on the Midlands Poultry Board as well.
And for anyone not involved with the NFU, what does that actually mean? What are you doing?
So with the Crops Board, we look at policy and things that are affecting our sector and try and influence that. So, for example, this time last year, we were thinking we were going to lose seed treatments on maize. I'd already stopped growing oilseed rape on the back of not having neonicotinoid seed treatments. I thought, just invested heavily in maize equipment and stuff like that. I was like, if they take this seed treatment off us, it's just simply correct. It's a bird repellent, but if we can't keep the crows away from our maize crop if we don't have this repellent. So yes, I went to cereals last year. I was on this NFU stand, and I got the opportunity to sit with Mark Spencer on a round table. I looked him in the eye and I said, look, we're a small family business. This is going to seriously impact our business. And and a few weeks later, he turned it all around. And I think that was literally the turning point. So it gives you the opportunity to have an impact on the sector. And people do criticise the NFU and they moan about it, but you have to remember the NFU is representing all farmers. We all have different opinions. You could put 200 farmers in a room, and you would never get them to agree. You were never going to get them to agree whether they're regenerative or you've got high intensive vegetable producer. Like, we're all different, and so the NFU are representing all of them. So
let's turn to some of your other enterprises on the farm, because there's quite a lot going on beyond the farming.
So we've got the Dandelion Hideaway, which is our glamping enterprise. So that's 6 safari tents in rural Leicestershire, pretty spread out, and they're very luxury. So they've got hot water, they've got roll top baths, king size beds and things like that. Yeah.
That is glamping to whole new levels.
Yeah. No, it is quite nice. So we get lots of Londoners from Manchester, because we're relatively central. You'll get families meeting in the middle from north and south stuff. So yeah, and the best thing about it is getting people on farm. We do 2 farm walks a week, where we do animal feeding. We've got pony petting and things like that. But it's quite good just to show them the crops we're growing and explain what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, it feels like every other farm in England now has some sort of glamping site. But for anyone who hasn't got one yet, what advice would you give to someone thinking about it?
Well, what advice would I give to get involved with glamping? It's more work than you probably ever imagine.
Okay.
So, and you've got to want to deal with the public. So,
yeah,
I'm lucky. My wife Polly will deal with the public, and she loves talking to people. I can deal with them, but I don't really want to engage in a conversation for more than about 3 minutes. But having when you have we've got a big grass field, it's about 10 acres, and there's a play area at the top, and then there's there's a stinny at the bottom, and we've got games and like forest school type things in there. And when it's full and there's kids running around enjoying it, like nothing's better than that. To be fair, it is really good. And when you show the kids on the farm, I always think they ask the questions that the parents are probably thinking. They just ask, don't they? Kids do. They don't.
Oh,
They
yes.
don't hold back. And it's so we have a few pigs, we have a few sheep, a few goats. It's just a menagerie of animals, and it's good. So it's good fun for the grandpas, and it's good fun for my own kids as well, because it's a nice way of life to grow up in. So
Yeah. You also have, and I haven't actually seen one of these diversifications in action, but you have a dog walking field, which seemed to have really taken off in recent years.
yes,
Does that work really well for you?
yeah. So we actually, because of the wet weather we had, we were setting it up over the winter. So we opened it last Monday.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Super
literally,
new.
yeah, it's brand new. So yeah, walkies at Osbaston, that's called. So we
Okay.
just 2 acres, few activities. We've got a few big villages around us, so people just come. They book on the app, well, on the website, on the phone, pay the money, and they have a slot, and we just send them a padlock code, and we just change that code regularly, and they can just go and access the field. We put poo bags literally all around the fencing, so they can. People generally are pretty clean so far, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, great. And you've had a busy first week?
Yeah, we had 8 people on the Thursday,
Nice.
a few yesterday. Yeah, so it's like £10 for 55 minutes and £7.50 for 25. So it's better than a 2 acre of grass field that it was. It works quite well, and it's still getting people on the farm, which I think is valuable, because we've got our Aberdeen Angus cattle on one side that they can see, and then we've got our wheat and our maize around it, so they get to see a real insight of our farm as well. So
Yeah. And one thing I find, I still find so amazing about farmers, especially who are so diversified, is, as you were saying earlier on, often you're quite small teams. So your time is going to be pushed in lots of different directions if you have all these enterprises. For your farm, why does the business need to be so diversified? And is there a point where you say that's enough?
I don't know whether it even needs to be diversified, but it's just, I think it's the people. So when you're a team, and as you grow up, you get married, and then someone else, there's potentially another member to the team. So the glamping utilises my wife Polly, so we brought her in, and it works really well. We've got 2 young kids, and it just fits in. And I'd rather do that than her go and work full time and things like that. So yeah, it's just making the best of the tools that you've got. Also, as an arable farm, sometimes there are areas of downtime, and I'm the sort of person where my mind can't really stop. So you just think, like, do we need to do a dog walking field? Probably not, but no, we can do it. Let's do it. And
You could go skiing instead.
Yeah, we could go skiing then. But yeah, I don't know. Your mind just keeps going, doesn't it? And you just evolving all the time. And I feel like if you take your foot off the gas, then you get left behind. So you just got to keep going.
And part of that, I suppose, is that wonderful word sustainability, and keeping the farm business economically sustainable. But you look at this in lots of different ways, and I think it's fascinating looking at your business and the way that it's structured. I'm interested in how you see sustainability, and whether you are actively thinking about it, or whether you just it's something that's just part and parcel of the business as it evolved.
I'm always thinking about it in terms of the land and protecting it for future generations, and not like, if we can improve our organic matter, then we can improve water retention, which then makes our farm so much more farmable. And if we can do that over time, and like when we get wet years like this, yeah, it can get you down. But if you've built up that resilience in your soil, you're in a much better position. And there are times when you probably take a hit on yield, but you've got to look at the bigger picture, because sometimes you can. I mean, a few years ago, we were renting land out to spuds, and it was brilliant. It was a brilliantly paid crop, but it was having huge impacts on our soil health. So we took the decision to actually, no, we're not going to just look at the the pound signs in the near future. We're looking at it further down the line now, and we're getting through that. We're recovering, but you've got to. When you have a really wet autumn, you might think, oh, let's panic and muck a crop in. Well, actually, let's just sit back a bit. Let's wait till the spring. Well, we thought we'd wait till the spring, but spring's only just arrived. But yeah, but sometimes you're better just to sit back, not panic, and your business or your land will be better off for that. So it's just being patient, really.
Now, without embarrassing you too much, you have won several awards, and including a couple of years ago, Arable Farm of the Year at the Farmers Weekly Awards. I'm interested in what the judges have sort of raised in terms of what makes you an award-winning farmer.
I focus on cost of production a lot. I feel with everything, because that's why we're here at the end of the day. So we broke down our business. Obviously, we've got quite a complex business. We've got a partnership, but it got quite difficult to analyse and assess. So we broke it up into different companies. So each enterprise is now its own company. So the Arable is A.H. Oliver and Son, and that's a partnership. Then we've got the Poultry as a limited company. The Glamping's a limited company. Got Storage as a limited company. And now we can really see everything's got its own set of accounts, everything, and you can really see what's doing what and why. And then you break it down again. So the Arable, you start looking down at cost of production. Yes, we might have been doing 10 tonne a hectare wheat crops, but we were spending £900 a hectare to get there, whereas now we're doing 8.5 tonne and it's costing us £300 tonne a hectare. Sometimes you can chase those yields and it costs you a lot of money, and I am all for chasing the yields, but I just think you've got to be real about it and get the best as you can without breaking the bank. Really, you've got to be profitable at the end of the day. So It's all right telling your mates down the pub that you've broke your yield records, but what's it cost you to get there?
Yeah, it's not all about pub yields.
No, yeah, we should be talking about cost of production rather than
Let's turn to the part of the show where we talk about the industry more broadly. So this could be challenges, opportunities in farming going forwards. We, of course, have an election coming up. I'm not sure whether farming is going to feature much in it. But it's a time of change. Hopefully, it's also been a really, really challenging few years with everything that's come out of COVID and Ukraine and input costs, etc. But I'm interested in your viewpoint as an arable farmer as to where the land lies at the moment in terms of challenges and opportunities for the sector as a whole.
So we're losing our subsidies, our BPS payments. So that's down at about 50% now. And I would say if you were completely reliant on your subsidy, you're probably doing something wrong. If your profit was your subsidy figure or less, then your business isn't sustainable, is it? What we just talked about. So we weren't at that stage, but it's still a big chunk of income that we are going to miss. So SFIs come in, and to be honest, that's why I enjoy being with the crops board and stuff. You get insight to these things a lot earlier than than you would normally. So it's good. It's actually great for business planning, and also you can have an input with not your social media influencers, but the people who can actually influence these strategies that come into place. So that's really good. SFI I've sort of embraced as soon as it came out in 2022. I was in 2023 and now 2024. So we're doing things like companion cropping. We're doing things cover cropping. I might look at doing some summer cover cropping this time. We're doing no-till. We've had grants for no-till drill, and then I'm doing hedgerow assessments. I'm doing them myself because I'm my own agronomist, so I can factor all these. Like a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to have to pay my agronomist to do it, and it's not worth it. Whereas because I am my own agronomist, I can absorb all the costs. So the SFI actually does suddenly become quite lucrative, and I'm not taking anything out of production. I'm passionate that we are farmers. I will farm with the environment, but I feel reluctant to take huge acres of land out of production just because we can. So I have done stuff in mid-tier in the past, and actually I've done bumblebird mixes, and they look great for the first year, but then I feel like they deplete, and
Okay.
actually there might be less than there probably would be in the farmland. So we've got 6 metre margins, we have buffer courses, we'll do lapwing pots, things like that, but I'm not really at the stage where I want to take huge areas out of production, because we're not that far long ago when we were queuing up outside farm shops, were we? So
so you've got a lot going on already. You've already said you've just started a new diversification. There's the core business as well, and there are all these challenges. But what if I could take you sort of 10 years ahead, say, where would you like the business to be in 10 years' time?
I don't know whether the business would grow outwards too much, because I feel like we've got to the stage where we are where we are, as we live a good life off it, and when you have young children, it alters how you view things a bit. So, and I am all for weekends off, and like, I don't work out, like, we are a small team. We work when we have to work, but we don't. The days that we're going to work 7 days a week all year round just because that's what we do. We're farmers. Like that ethos is gone, and sometimes during harvest we might work long hours, but if it's a Thursday afternoon and it's raining, you say to the lads, "Look, let's don't have the afternoon off. Go and see your families, recharge." So going forward, as long as we keep getting more efficient and better at what we're doing, I think the business will grow within itself, rather than let's get more acres, let's get more enterprises or do this. I just think we're in quite a good position. Let's just get better at doing it. That's what I think I would like to achieve.
Great. A nice position to be in. Well, thanks so much for telling us about the business. We are going to turn now to the quick questions, which have nothing to do with farming. The first is your favourite book or film?
It's a very boring answer. I'm going to say Hangover, just because it's a good go-to, isn't it? You just
Nice.
stick it hard. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't think anyone has actually said that yet. Coast or mountains?
Oh, definitely mountains. 100%. Yeah.
Nice. And only because we've got the Olympics coming up this summer, your favourite Olympic sport?
I'm going to say rugby sevens, just because it's
Nice.
my favourite sport, and it's a good, faster alternative, isn't it?
Fit that in there. And we'll do the final questions. Will, if you had a message for the public, any message, what would it be?
Buy local. If you can't buy local, buy British. You can't just buy British, can you? Because you want bananas and you want oranges and stuff. But buy as British as you possibly can, and use your local farm shops and stuff, because they might disappear one day if you don't use them.
And a message for your fellow farmers.
Share what you do. Tell your story.
Nice. Great. Nice and simple. I like that one.
Yeah.
Will, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's
Thank you for having me.
It's just amazing, honestly, to hear about everything you've been doing, and I completely see when we get people who have like won all these awards on the show. I'm always like, I completely see why you're at that level. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
That is it for today. A big thank you to my guest, Will Oliver, for coming on the show. Thank you also for listening. Please do subscribe to the show. If you don't already, that just means that you get the show at the top of your feed every week. You don't have to go searching for it, so please do that. Please also rate and review us if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or to be honest, wherever else you're listening. That really helps in encouraging others to find us as well. And just share it with people you know. Don't forget also to check out our sister show, Rural Business Focus. You can check that out wherever you're listening to this one. Next time, we'll be back in Scotland. We'll be heading up there to meet dairy farmer Rory Christie. But for now, I'm Ben Eagle. This has been Meet the Farmers, and thank you very much for listening.